audience C has experienced the joy of staying home from school because you were sick, you were feeling ill, or you were experiencing physical pain of some sort. This is completely normal. We understand it, our parents understand it, the school board understands it. How likely is it though that a student's request to stay home is granted and accepted when they say that they don't feel emotionally stable enough to sit through lectures? It is unquestionable that our society prioritizes physical health over mental health. And sadly, in the next 12 minutes of this talk, 18 people in the world will have taken their own lives. 18 people. The United States is responsible for one of these 18 deaths according to the first ever comprehensive report given by the World Health Organization. The reality is that mental health is real. It is very real. And there's a reason why it may be neglected, especially in many countries in Asia. Now let's talk about this country most of us here call home. Taiwan holds one of the highest suicide rates in Asia, but little is recorded due to the heavy stigma surrounding the issue. In the average Taiwanese household, children raised in the culture are taught the conscious of shame and to avoid bringing it into the family at all costs. So as a result, concealing negative emotions and personal difficulties become an apparent way to deal with their sadness and to avoid the possibility of possibly dishonoring themselves or their family members. It's a culture that is very shame-based and shame-socialized, as explained in a research conducted by 2 MD degree researchers at Taiwan University. They reported that disclosing personal information about a family struggle is generally seen as inappropriate because of the strict adherence to collectivistic, which means to do something in the best of a group, and in this case, the family, rather than an individualistic doing what's best for a person belief system. Another study done on 9 middle-class Taiwanese families found that parents and caregivers expect their children to have a fundamental sense of shame by the age of 2.5. So after that, guidance and reinforcement are given to ensure the maintaining of this emotional shame. It is a negative emotion that is so intense that it shall affect one's cognitive and behavioral activities. And when it is believed that concealment prevents shame and is repeatedly embedded into the minds of those who are suffering, the thoughts of seeking professional help or even opening up becomes more and more unthinkable. In fact, a survey conducted by the China Post shows that less than a quarter of people who have thought about committing suicide in Taiwan have sought help.
I am now going to talk about an incident in Taiwan, a city on the east coast of Taiwan. It is a small place filled with amazing culture, and the people there are happy, fun, and loving. However, in such a peaceful place, tragedies still happen. I have a friend who killed himself last year. It was the morning after Halloween night. We went to watch a magic show together with a group of friends, and I remember distinctly chatting about how good the shows were and how his brother was in one of the local bands. He was so excited that his brother was performing that night, and we all had a great time. The next day, people found him in his room, and it was too late. He had hung himself. And like wildfire, the news spread. I couldn't understand why someone who appeared so happy and exciting would want to take their own life. Or maybe my friend was deeply hurt and scared. He was just really good at hiding it. Yes, everyone was shocked. Shocked that such an act had taken place in a small town. Shocked that it was even possible that a bubbly, talkative person had any kind of intense sadness in him. He didn't seem depressed or unhappy with his life. He just looked like a normal guy, but just a lot of secrets that he could not share with anyone else. When I got to talk to some of his family members after the incident, I was appalled to learn that his family was reluctant to talk about his suicide due to embarrassment. They treated the issue as something shameful and should be kept a secret. The details about his life I'm not able to share, but what I can say is he suffered a lot while he was alive. When I think back on this incident, I often think to myself, this didn't have to happen. People could have helped them. In Taiwan, I experienced that most people have a hard time dealing with feelings. That when people are troubled, they are expected to walk it off and keep going. To some extent, that is what should be done. But when families' attitude teaches that depression and anxiety is just all in the head, it could lead to thoughts that committing suicide is the only way.
Not surprisingly, Taiwan is not the only country in Asia experiencing the weight of stigma put on mental illness. A recent article published by the News Public talked about the dangers of silence on mental health in South Asia. On November 14, 1998, Neil Grover, an intelligent young Indian man studying to be a doctor, took his own life. Now, I chose to talk about this particular study because of what he wrote in his suicide note. It read, "If I tell everything, I will lose everything." This simple yet direct message speaks for millions living with mental illness in the Asian culture. Grover was on his way to academic success in medical school, but felt pressure to keep his illness private. And this is due to the belief that it could ruin his career. The article then talks about the differences between the white way and the brown way. So the white way generally involves an expression of honest emotions and eagerness in discussing their personal issues with everyone, even strangers. In contrast, the brown way prefers silence. Growing up, they are told that other people have it worse, so when experiencing any kind of pain, the normal reaction is to keep quiet. Because if other people have it worse, why should I bother opening up, right? Very similar to the Chinese-Taiwanese culture, admitting to mental health issues would be threatening izat. Izat meaning honor in traditional Southern Asian families. And izat is believed to be maintained by living performatively. What that means is that you conceal weakness, you try to gloss over all sorts of negatives, and portray only the most successful part of your life or yourself. Now, there are many similar stories as that of Grover's. Those who are suffering with mental illness also receive the weight that comes from the heavy stigma. It's inescapable. Hopefully by now, we are all familiar with the dangers and effects of stigma. Yes, it is created by people, by us, formed in society, and now affecting the same people and the same society.
In Taiwan, when someone shows symptoms of mental illness, some of them usually go to temples or folk therapy. They don't immediately go to a doctor for professional help. It could be because they're ashamed or insecure about having to admit that they are mentally ill. The name of the departments also carry a huge stigma. They rather go to small clinics that say they can help with headaches and chest tightness, rather than going to a mental health physician in a big hospital. They try to be very secretive and seek help as if they are not allowed. Because of the stigma, doctors have learned that they need to sugarcoat things to patients, so they don't scare them away or offend them. They would say, "You have a dysfunction in your brain, so you must take these medicines to help balance things out." Doctors can't bluntly say to their patients who have schizophrenia, "You have schizophrenia." The health system in Taiwan could also work against patients. Because of the short time doctors have with our patients, it's difficult to find a match for psychotherapy. This makes it so that less patients get the proper help that they need.
Now we're going to explain the improvement in mental health policies in Taiwan. In 1997, Wong discovered the contributions of the United Nations, medical professionals, and local volunteers over the past 5 decades.
The Taiwan Society of Psychiatrists is working on letting the public know about mental illnesses and trying to lessen the stigma in Taiwan. 2 years ago, the organization made governmental strides and succeeded in changing the name of schizophrenia to cognitive perceptual dysfunction. Schizophrenia, derived from the Greek root for split mind, is an effort to reduce the stigma attached to the disease and increase patients' willingness to seek help. They proposed the name cognitive perception dysfunction, which suggests disorders of thoughts or consciousness, and was inspired by the name early psychosis, which was adopted by Hong Kong in 2001. As a result, the name has gained the illness more acceptance to the general public.
Now, let us leave the modern society for a second and travel back in time for an ancient Indian epic called Mahabharata. It tells the story of a young warrior named Karna. Karna approached a guru named Parashurama in the hopes of becoming his apprentice. Parashurama agrees to this, but has one restriction, and that is that he will not teach Kshatriya. Kshatriya are members of the warrior clan, so he will not accept anyone of this sort. Knowing this, Karna lies and tells Parashurama that he is not one of the Kshatriyas and gains his status as a pupil. But one day, while Parashurama rests his head on his student's lap for a nap, a scorpion crawls up Karna's leg and bites into his flesh. And not wanting to disrupt his mentor's sleep, Karna uses all his strength to withstand the severe pain. Blood starts to flow from his wound, and eventually the floor gets wet from his blood. So the story is sounding a little bit strange by now, but stay with me. Parashurama awakens suddenly and sees his pupil quietly suffering this great pain. And he thought to himself, only a Kshatriya is able to withstand such pain. So enraged, he puts a curse on Karna and eventually death of Karna. I wanted to share this part of the tale because it teaches the moral that enduring pain is not a quality to be praised for any beneficial purposes, even in Asian culture. So this tragedy shows that even if he tried as hard as he can to conceal the pain, it did not end well. The stigma surrounding mental health and the need to endure it silently was created by the people and can be ended by the people.
When we think about how many people are suffering through mental illnesses, it's quite difficult to fully sympathize with. But if we think how many lives are lost because improper treatment, it is a bit easier to grasp. Stop the ignorance, stop the intolerance, stop the silence, stop the stigma. This is a quote from Kevin Brill, a TED Talk speaker who opened up about his own struggle with depression. When all of us start to live by these rules, that is when change starts happening.
Thank you.